If you're in the legal industry, you'll know that there is so much white people there, whether it's men and women, and if you're not part of that demographic, it is really, really hard. Law is a very old tradition. There is a lot of, culture. There's a lot of things. Forget about like just the educational part of like you have to attain a certain grade standard and everything, but then just trying to navigate the cultural differences is super, super hard.
How have you bridged the gaps between industries and empowered future leaders?
I think for me, so on the side of me having a 9-to-5 within law firm risk and compliance, so I actually am the founder of a fashion law consultancy platform, which initially started off actually as a blog back in 2016. It's great that we reach these high places, but isn't the whole thing to be how we can bring other people on as well and to share the platform? Inclusivity as well.
Leaders taking bold and tangible steps like this person, this black woman, is doing it.
For me, Fasaya from Kai Collective, the founder, I absolutely love her.
Right.
Honestly, like I love what she stands for. I love the fact that she's unapologetically black.
Yeah.
She's a real leader, not just within fashion, but also in business as well. And I love how inclusive it is. Again, being unapologetic, self-advocacy. Then she's, partnering with makeup brands, or she's got Melissa as a co-sign or Stormzy as a co-sign. I think, again, it just shows you self-advocating for yourself really will do a wealth of goodness for you. And I said, to me, that's someone who is inclusive, is a leader right through to the point where they're seen as a global leader as well. I feel like integrity has really, really, really taken me far. I think making sure that if there's something that looks a bit quite dodgy, it's kind of like, okay, let me call it out, or let me sit back and be like, this is not something I'm quite comfortable with. Especially within the legal profession, you have to be seen as behaving with integrity, regardless of whether you're practicing the law or in a different facet of the law. Integrity really will take you high.
Hi Black Circle family, and welcome back to another episode, and we are celebrating International Women's Day 2025, and the theme today is accelerating action, and I'm joined by our guest Bunmi Jenfa. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Thanks for coming along. So Bunmi, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
No problem. So I am a risk analyst. I work within law firm risk and compliance at a law firm here in London. I'm also the founder of a fashion law consultancy called the Fashion Law Edit, and I'm also a award-winning legal professional. So I'm the winner of the Unsung Hero Award for the Women and Law in Diversity Awards 2023.
Yes, brilliant. And I want to kind of like go into the award a little bit later on in the conversation, so we'll journey into that. But let's start with your journey into law.
So as cliche as this may sound, I always knew that I wanted to have a career in law, probably from the ages of 4 and 5. So I was quite mature for my age in terms of like, I would sit with my mom and watch like Judge Judy, Judging Amy, a lot of like other legal, like Law and Order kind of programs. And it kind of from there kind of was like, oh, okay, this is cool. This may be of interest. Also, I was told by my family, like I talk a lot. I love to argue a lot. Right. So, for them, it made sense, have a career in law. But I think I started to take it a lot more seriously when I was in year 9. Mm-hmm. So you were just gearing up for like year 10, kind of finding out what you wanted to do for your 2 weeks of work experience. I decided, okay, I wanted to do my 2 weeks of work experience with a lawyer, either focusing on family law or criminal law. At the time, I didn't know what area of law I wanted to get into. So I had 1 week with a family law barrister and 1 week with a criminal law barrister. It was at that moment when I had the work experience with with the family law barrister, and it was like, this is definitely what I want to go into. I think for me, growing up in a 2-parent household filled with love, filled with family, I saw that I had a privilege in that, I had a very nice childhood, and being in the courtroom as a student and hearing these horrific cases and discussing with the family law barrister at the time, cases to do with children and all of that stuff. For me, it was just like, this is so bad. This is very, very, there's no justice for these children. So it was kind of just using that as my why, as to why I wanted to have a legal career, and specifically in family law. And then, yeah, just kind of did 3 years in law school, took a year out, went back to law school to do my bar professional training course and the masters at the bar, in the hopes of qualifying as a family law barrister. And obviously in 2021, it was like I decided I no longer wanted to do that and pivot into something else still within law. But yeah.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with pivoting. I think that's people who have that entrepreneurial spirit. I think it's a good sign of a good entrepreneur when you know when to pivot.
Yeah.
And it's also really nice and refreshing to hear you say, look, I came from a 2-parent household. There was lots of love and joy there, and I wanted to pay it forward. Yeah, and you could see the injustices and where they exist, and you really wanted to kind of like put your hand up and say, this is my place.
Yeah,
so that's really good. So when we say, about being a Black woman and being in the corporate business spaces, like the double burden that comes along with that, right?
Yeah.
And we're talking about International Women's Day today. And so I kind of want to tie that theme in, it's not all burden for us, but it definitely is. So I kind of want to tie that theme into kind of like what your experiences have been and what they are today. And I know off camera we spoke about you working for a New York office and like the American culture over there, and working with all Black women over here, which is just incredible. So let's dig a little bit into that.
Okay, so I think for me, those, especially if you're in the legal industry, you'll know that there is so much white people there, whether it's men and women, and if you're not part of that demographic, it is really, really hard. Law is a very old tradition. There is a lot of, culture. There's a lot of things. Forget about like just the educational part of like you have to attain a certain grade standard and everything, but then just trying to navigate the cultural differences is super, super hard. So I knew that was going to be something that would be kind of like a barrier for me. I think my mum, when I invited her, for example, to the Inns of Court, one of my Inns of Court, they had a dinner there and we got chatting with like these barristers of high places. When I came back home, my mum was like, wow, I see how your world is. Like, this is so different from everywhere else, where like just the conversations that you're having with people, not everyone can really relate. So she really understood like how the legal world is for me over there. But I think within my journey, I've never allowed that to deter me from where I wanted to go. So I knew there was going to be barriers in terms of culture and how to relate to people. But I think that's what kind of pushed me to keep on going. One of the chambers, the barristers' chambers that I used to work at, was quite good in terms of promoting equality and everything. And it was, funnily enough, it was a Black woman that got me into the law firm risk and compliance side that I had a really good relationship with. So I will say on that path, I've had a good understanding, or I've had people to turn to be able to get me to where I need to get to. And even if I haven't, I've kind of just taken things into my own hand to get to those points and places. But I think for me, it was a couple of years back and I was in a situation where I felt like I had to talk up for myself or stand up for myself. So at the time, a manager of mine we had a private conversation about some work I was doing. And she felt during that conversation, I was defensive.
Oh, that word defensive.
Yeah.
Or attitude.
Or attitude. She felt like I had an attitude. And for me personally, that was the first time ever anybody in the workplace has put that label on me. Like, I mean, not to be big-headed, but I've never really had an issue in the working environment. So for someone to come to me and basically say that they felt that I was defensive, I was like, oh, okay. But it was the way in which they went through it. So rather than pull me to the side and have an informal conversation, they went to, in writing, put it on, I guess, what you would call a records on, I don't know how you would call it, or a record platform where like all your work related things are on there. Right. They had gone and put it on record that they felt like our chat was a bit defensive. I obviously was very, very surprised with that, because at least, just have an informal conversation with me and I could rest assure you that that was not the case, but they didn't decide to do that. I took a couple of days out to kind of just process what had happened, because I think for me, I always say, even if you've been caught in a position or caught in a situation that you feel like you're completely innocent with, I think it's very it's very wise to kind of take some time out.
Yeah.
Don't go in there arguing or angry or anything, because
On the emotion.
exactly,
Yeah.
just sit it out for a bit, let the emotions simmer, and then come in, present your case. So that's what I did. I responded to them in email, in writing, just saying, apologies if they felt that way. I mean, I did expect them to kind of approach me informally instead of writing it down, so that I could have, reassured them that that wasn't the case. Didn't hear back from the person, but obviously, to sum it up, it did backfire on me, sort of thing, that sort of microaggression. At the time, obviously, the consequences wasn't great, but I think for me, it was kind of like, I'm so happy that I stood up for myself. I'm so happy I advocated for myself, even when, I didn't know the consequences at the time would be quite horrible. But I'm very happy that I took that self-advocacy and I was like, okay, this isn't right. This isn't something that I did. And I think quite often enough, a lot of us in the working space, especially Black women, are too scared to approach these topics or to kind of defend ourselves, because you're scared of, being fired, or being scared of, things escalating or being labeled. And I think, sometimes we do have to have just a bit of self-confidence in ourselves and stand up for ourselves, because if you don't self-advocate, if you don't self-advocate for yourself, who else is going to advocate for you in the working place as well? So yeah, I've had a lot of trials and errors working up to where I am. But now I'm in a lovely law firm. I'm in a lovely team. I'm in, for the first time in my life, working with 2 other Black women.
Yes.
Love that. And I literally told them, like, my acting manager, she's also Black, and she just checked within the first couple of weeks, checked in with me just to see how I was doing. And I said, I absolutely love it. I love the fact that I could be myself. I love the fact, obviously, keeping it professional, but I've never worked in an environment like this. I'm always the only Black. I'm always the only Black woman, or the youngest in the team, sort of thing. So, and I think for me, working in a team like that has definitely shown through in my working abilities, in how I'm just happy to be at work, which is like, not everyone said that, but I'm actually happy to be at work. I love being part of the team. I love being part of the firm and what they stand for. So I think even for me, that really showed, I guess, just how much issues along the way I had faced, and how I've come to this point where I'm actually happy, sort of thing. And it's a great place to be in. So yeah.
That's a prime example of having to face the burden of always being labelled aggressive, like you said, attitude, defensive, like all of these words that are thrown at us, and how we have to navigate that. So, we're talking about International Women's Day, but we also have this layer of our Blackness on top of being a woman, which is it's so frustrating at the best of times. So let's go in a little bit on action over awareness, and how we can accelerate real change in business. So how have you bridged the gaps between industries and empowered future leaders?
I think for me, so on the side of me having a 9 to 5 within law firm risk and compliance, so I actually am the founder of a fashion law consultancy platform, which initially started off actually as a blog back in 2016. I loved fashion, loved the law, but career-wise, that wasn't something I was looking to take up seriously. But I just had a blog, created a blog, and it kind of grew from there on. Especially in a niche area. So fashion was a niche area, very big in America, not so much in the UK. So there wasn't a lot of people that I could turn to, sort of thing, to see, oh, that's how you've created it. Can you help me, sort of thing? So I kind of just saw a gap in the market and went through it. In doing so, and knowing how hard it is, I think I've been able to use my platform to get other people onto doing this sort of thing that I am doing. So, for example, things like just free events. I've made, so at the time when I was a student, I know it was very, very hard to navigate these spaces, especially the law space. A lot of the times it's kind of like who you know rather than what you know. So again, it's kind of like, okay, I'm in this space, I've created this space, how can I share this space with everybody else? I always say, like, it's great that we reach these high places, but isn't the whole thing to be how we can bring other people on as well, and to share the platform? Inclusivity as well. So literally, I've been able to put on workshops and events, and I've had lots of students kind of say, like, oh, thank you so much for putting this on. This has really helped me. Or even people globally assume that I've got a team around me. So they'll be like, oh, can we do work experience for internships for you? And it's like, listen, just a one-man band sort of thing.
For now.
Sort of thing. But again, it's actually just showing me the power of what I'm doing. The fact that I've been able to share this with so many people and they've been able to benefit from this. I think that's what I love about that. I think, like I said, creating platforms and being in high positions, you want to bring people on with you. It's not supposed to be a one-man island or one-woman island. So the very fact that I've been able to put things on for people and they've been able to benefit from it and get them to where they need to get to makes me fulfilled and really happy as well.
Yeah, that's amazing. And it's just, when you think of these institutions, it's kind of like old Etonian, white man, and men again. It's always going back to this hierarchical, patriarchal.
Yes.
And so it's just so encouraging to see you filling this space and doing it unapologetically as well. So it's really, really fantastic. And I want to kind of look at like real world examples today of leaders taking bold and tangible steps, not just performative ones. Is there one that kind of comes to mind where you're like, this person, this Black woman, is doing it?
Oh gosh, for me, Fasaya from Kai Collective, the founder, I absolutely love her.
Right,
I'm wearing one of her pieces as well. Like,
it's a lovely jacket. I already commented. I was like, that jacket's amazing.
Honestly, like, I love what she stands for. I love the fact that she's unapologetically Black.
Yes.
She's a real leader, not just within fashion, but also in business as well. She really saw a gap in the market and has really propelled it to great heights. And I love how inclusive it is. I love for the fact that, for example, last year in November, she had her second sample sale in London and people from all over the world actually flew in to be able to just get their pieces. And I think someone from the States flew in for a day.
Wow.
I think she put this up on her Instagram. And the reason why they flew in is because Fasaya's brand catered to her. She wasn't able to, get the right clothes in the States, but her brand in particular could cater to her body type. And I said, to me, that's someone who is inclusive, is a leader right through to the point where they're seen as a global leader as well. And she's been who she is from the very beginning to now. Melissa's wardrobe.
Oh,
like,
I need her as a guest so bad.
Yeah, honestly, Melissa's wardrobe, I think for me, she's just everything. She's British, Black, and she stands up for herself. Like, she's not someone that just is on the sideline. If she feels that there's a bit of an injustice or something, she will say it out. She speaks her mind. And I think for me personally, it's really nice to see where she's at, because in fact, the event that I went to back in 2016 that got me started on my fashion law journey she was actually a guest speaker on there. So I've been able to track and see her growth throughout the years. And to see how well she's taken her business to new heights and everything, irrespective of what's been going on with her personal life and everything. I think she's an amazing leader. I think recently, Faye of Faye's Flowers.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I think
it's just skyrocketed.
Yes. And I think there were so many lessons that we could learn from her, again, being unapologetic, self-advocacy, going on to TikTok, not really knowing how it's going to be well received, but she's seen that she's been put in a position where somebody's taking her business or ripping off her business, and she's self-advocating for herself. The very fact that she was able to do that and her business has now skyrocketed, and she's, partnering with makeup brands, or she's got Melissa as a co-sign or Stormzy as a co-sign. I think, again, it just shows you self-advocating for yourself really will do a wealth of goodness for you. That's just a couple of people on my mind, but definitely Faith Flowers, I think, of recent. So many lessons we could learn from her.
I want to talk about accelerating action.
She's literally the person that she really took her business in her own hands, called out an injustice, and look at how it's turned for her.
Fantastic. And we hope that it just continues to blossom and
keep on going. Yeah. Exactly.
100%. Okay. And so kind of like looking to the future, and like, real changes and what that looks like. How can businesses genuinely support Black women beyond International Women's Day hashtags?
Yeah. I think for me at this stage is, I know we talk about mentoring, and I know we talk about schemes and all of these platforms, which are great, and I do think they still need to continue, because let's not forget there's people behind us who are coming up and they need those platforms as well. But I think actually putting your money where your mouth is, like, I think, let's be honest, the whole thing is capital. People, we want money to be able to fund our business and get it where it needs to go. And the fact that still to this day, I think it's less than 3% of women have like VC investors. And the fact that that's still a very, very, very small percentage is shocking. Now, if you look into that, less than 3%, and if you divide it by ethnic groups, where is Black women in that sort of thing? So I think it's really kind of like putting your money where your mouth is. It's great that we're speaking and we're having these conversations and we're doing the hashtags and we're doing the mentoring, but that's not all we need. We need money. These businesses need money. They've shown they're great leaders. They've shown that they've got great business ideas. They've shown that it's very viable. They've got the community. They've got the backing. Where is the money to be able to support that? So I think it's great we're having these conversations, but really we need money.
It still feels like there's a certain amount of gatekeeping going on there.
Yeah.
Undeniably. And now that they've emboldened themselves to roll back on DEI initiatives. And to be fair, it goes beyond DEI initiatives.
Yeah,
like you said, like we really now need to start putting things into action.
Yeah.
And like you said, it has to come through the capital. And so it just seems like we're in a really weird space. And then how do we navigate that space being less than 1%?
Yeah,
that's where we sit in that 3%.
Yeah.
And so it's just like where do we go from there?
I think with DEI, I have a funny approach to it. I think sometimes for the greater amount of people, DEI is a tick box exercise.
Yeah,
it shouldn't be, but it is used like that because at the end of the day, that's just something businesses and large corporations have to make sure that they're seen to be promoting.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. And I think now I'm looking at how is this going to affect Black women moving forward, where they don't have, because at least these DEI initiatives still gave a chance for Black women to be in these rooms and to have certain amount of successes. Now you've completely taken that away. So rather than moving forward, we're moving 10 steps backwards. And it's really like, where do we navigate? What do we do? Is it now seen as just, are we going to have to continue to work super hard now? Or I don't know. I mean, even though I have my own reservations on DEI, I can't deny the fact that it has helped women go into big places, seek leadership, be in these rooms and everything. But now the fact that it's been taken away, I just think it's going to cause an even more bigger issue than it already is currently. So
absolutely. And I think we have to do and continue to do what we always do, is be organised. And just kind of keep that unity, keep building, keep pushing barriers. It is tiring, but
I feel like we're always fighting.
Yeah,
we are always fighting to be heard. We're always fighting to be seen. And sometimes our white counterparts don't have to do these fighting. They don't have to continuously prove themselves. I feel like we're continuously proving ourselves as why we are the best, why you should take a chance on us, when really and truly we've got all the evidence. So what else do you want?
Exactly. What more do we need to do?
Exactly. What else? And
this is why I love that we are organising amongst ourselves. And I always say, if you can't get a seat at the table, build your own tables. And I think us as Black women, I think we're doing that quite beautifully.
I think we do that. I think we've been always innovative. We've always kind of thought outside the box. We've always kind of taken matters into our own hands. So I'm not scared that, what are we going to do in that sense? Because I think we've been doing that. Sort of thing. And as Black women, I love the fact that we take ownership. So if we're not seeing something's been done, well, let me do it, sort of thing. But it's just a case of sometimes, like, you do get tired of doing that, like continuously proving yourself when you've got the track record, you've got the backing. So what else is it that they need?
No, absolutely. Let's go back a little bit, because I know you mentioned the fashion law edit. And you said you established that in 2016. So kind of what beyond that, lessons from your work that apply across industries for you?
I think for me, one of the main reasons as to why I'm continuing on with the fashion law edit, it's kind of to make law accessible, relevant and affordable for all. As someone that works in the legal profession, I have seen that there isn't a lot of people like me, or even like just access to basic legal knowledge. For example, we've got all these businesses. A lot of Black women are setting up these businesses, and it's amazing, and they've got the successes. But time and time again, what I do see is that they run into issues. One of the issues that they run into is legal issues. How can they solve it? Well, from the beginning, they haven't got the right foundation to kind of help them navigate through it. So where I come in is just making sure that they have all the relevant resources, they have the knowledge, they've got the key contacts that they need to go to be able to, sort out any issues that they have. I think at this day and age, we should really all be clued up in terms of like legal knowledge and legalities and terms and contracts and how to negotiate sort of thing, because we have these business ideas, but where is the foundation in that? So my thing is just to make this more accessible for us, really bring in everybody else to take ownership of your own business totally, especially with that legal background as well. So yeah.
And so if we accelerate action now, what does the next decade look like for Black women in business?
I hope the conversations aren't still these conversations. I hope our conversations are a bit more elevated. I hope our conversations are more about, okay, I've got this capital, how can I put it into another Black business and everything like. I hope we're still not talking about DEI. I hope we're not talking about continuously proving ourselves. I think the conversations, hopefully in a decade later, will be more about finance, capital. How can we continue to plant finance into all these businesses? I'm hoping that's what we see in the next 10 years, especially for the people that are coming up behind us as well, who look up to us in business, regardless of what industry and sector it is. We don't want them to continuously have these conversations or hear these conversations in the next year.
No, absolutely. I absolutely agree with that. So a call to action now. So for everybody that's listening, so how can we push for change in business, careers or networks?
I think look within your network, look within yourself. If you've got something or if you've got a talent, a gift, how can you use that to be able to elevate other people onto what it is that you're looking for as well? How can you include people into what it is that you have? So for me, for example, whilst I sometimes consider myself as I've started something small, I look at it as a bit big. I'm literally helping people to, make sure that they've got access to legal resources, or people who want a career in fashion law. I'm giving them, the tips or, the avenues or the workshops to be able to supplement that knowledge. Look within your resources, look within your community or your network and see like, how can you also pay it forward? But also I feel like self-advocacy. I think sometimes you really have to break through that barrier of what ifs or what the consequences may be and really self-advocate for yourself. Again, if you don't self-advocate for yourself, who will? And I think, again, going back to Faye from Faye's Flowers, we've seen just how self-advocating, where that takes you. I'm sure, this time last year, she didn't think her business could reach to these heights. But a simple self-advocating, calling something out and look at it as well. So I think definitely self-advocating and looking within your own network and seeing how you can bring others on as well.
And also going back to Faye, the example you just used, that it was nice to see actually the community's response to that call to action.
Yeah.
So as much as people want to talk about the Black community and all the negatives that come along with it, actually
we come together. We definitely, and it's like kind of like, we definitely come together. We definitely support each other. And again, like you said, in terms of the negative stereotypes, actually, look at what the community has done and look at how every step of the way they've been rooting for her. From the people that, I don't know, little comment on the comment section, to people who have influence, who have capital or who have networks to be able to propel her. It's shown that we can come together, and I think we need to continue in that behavior and kind of just propel each other and do it for everybody else within our community, because we can do it.
We can do it.
We have been doing it. We have been doing it. Just kind of leave the negativity alone and let's all support each other. I also think it's not good to don't look at each other as a competition.
Right.
I think sometimes within the Black community, maybe some people will agree or disagree, but I think we have this thing of competition, like how can I one up? And I don't know where that stems from. Maybe because we are a small minority or a community in itself, where actually collaboration.
Yes.
Let's all collaborate. Isn't the goal to kind of elevate the community? So let's collaborate. Let's share. Let's see how we can help each other and bring our visions to life. So yeah,
comparison is the thief of joy, is what I
exactly.
Everybody stay in their own lane.
Exactly. Stay in your own lane. Come together. Let's all elevate together.
Absolutely. So just to see what acceleration truly means for you.
Accelerate, it means taking action. It means being persistent. It means self-advocacy. It means being audacious. It means kind of taking away the what ifs and thinking about what could be
Yeah.
sort of thing. To me, that's kind of like, okay, less talking, more action. If we're going to say all these things, let's also be a reflection of doing these things as well.
No, absolutely.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, so at this point of the conversation, I like to go into values.
Okay.
And so it's a value that you kind of hold and carry with you for your professional life, and a value that you hold and carry with you for your personal life. Okay. So if we start with your professional life first.
I'd say integrity.
That's a good
one. I feel like integrity has really, really, really taken me far. I think making sure that if there's something that looks a bit quite dodgy, it's kind of like, okay, let me call it out, or let me sit back and be like, this is not something I'm quite comfortable with. Especially within the legal profession, you have to be seen as behaving with integrity, regardless of whether you're practicing the law or in a different facet of the law. Integrity really will take you high. And I think personal life, Person. I would say integrity as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say I try and also emulate that in my personal life as much as possible. Just to lead with integrity, humbleness. Also, I would kind of describe myself as someone being self-determined. I think it takes a lot for me to back down or to kind of be like, okay, I've tried sort of thing. I think for me, self-determination has definitely been a key value that has taking me up to places. So yeah, I like to lead with that.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
I just want to specifically say thank you for occupying these spaces, showing up, doing the work, and pioneering, really.
Thank you.
And so there's so many, why I do the podcast and why I do what I do, I want to make sure that I'm archiving like all these fantastic stories and examples for generations coming up to say like, we're doing it,
Yeah.
And so you're living proof of that. So
thank
you so much for taking your time out with me and joining us.
Thank you so much.
So if people want to follow your journey, where can they find you?
So Fashion Law Edit is www.thefashionlawedit.com. Also on Instagram, LinkedIn as well. My personal Instagram is Bunmi_G Jenfa.
Thank you so much again. And guys, thank you for joining us for this episode. And as usual, you can follow our journey on the blackcircle.podcast, and that's on Instagram, and on YouTube on the Black Circle Podcast. And as always, like, follow, subscribe. Thank you.